I will say that again. Welcome to the NAP, where we cover the question period, prefaced by a review of the far left evil that has beset our land and the events that surround it. The NAP is a daily show when Parliament is sitting for the House, so please join us before the question period, 45 minutes prior, or until the government decides to stop showing up in the lower house. We're streaming on 3 platforms, Rumble, X, and CommuTube, so please give us a like, thumbs up, follow, share, subscribe. Most of all, the chat is up, so please feel free to ask us anything. Keep it clean and don't be abusive. Comments drive the algorithm up, so when I'm not driving it down with my forbidden words. All right, well, let's get right into it. It's been quite the week for the past week, hasn't it? Of course, the Parliament took the week off so they could go back home, and in the meantime, bombard us with some repeated propaganda of their failures, calling them successes. Now, one thing we've been covering constantly since we started this NAP when it came to this in the fall, in September, was that we were covering the ostrich farm and what has been going on there. So let's go straight to that. Fade into that. And fade, there we go. All right, so our ostrich farm has been continually putting up some live feeds. Apparently there's a live feed right there. Let's have a quick look and see what's going on the farm. Oh, something went wrong. Well, as we know, the RCMP have a platoon of cops there to guard the CFIA. What's been happening in the past week is they have gone over to the neighbors and told them that basically they're not allowed to gallivant out along their land because it's too close to the ostriches. But the neighbors have garlic harvest. So they're basically telling the farmers next door that they can't harvest because they're too close to the fence. In fact, they've been allowed to stay on their property during this government encroachment on freedom. And that's basically what they told them. We're just going to allow you to stay on your property. Imagine this. This is where this government is heading. Now, Scott Anderson here has released a letter. Let's have this quick read here. The MP for Vernon Lake Country, Mosanabi. So, Honorable Paul McKinnon, which he's addressing it to. The Member of Parliament representing the riding of Vernon Lake County, Moshani, I am astonished by the lack of public communication regarding the Universal Ostrich Farm from both the Canadian Food Inspection Agency and your office. And if anybody saw Ezra Levant doing his piece a couple of days ago when he was talking to a minister and he asked her a question, she refused to answer. She just stood there smiling at them, refused to answer, made the minister look like a complete fool, and just epitomizes how these liberals treat Canadians, right? They won't give you any answers. This is why my show is called the No Answer Period. We have received thousands of calls, emails, and in-person visits from concerned residents. The fate of the ostriches is clearly a matter of wide public interest, and the ongoing lack of communication has become frankly outrageous. It has resulted in significant uncertainty, frustration, and speculation in the community and across the country. Yeah, the speculation is that we don't have any property rights anymore. This drama has become both ridiculous and deeply chilling. Oh, well, Trump also called this ridiculous. Is this the liberal vision of how our government is supposed to act towards our citizens? Well, yes, it is. That is a liberal vision, folks. That was what we warned you about. Is this a sort of institutional behavior Canadians can expect from this government going forward, or is this just a local case of bungled bureaucratic overreach on the part of CFIA? I'd say insofar, this is representative of everything they have done so far these past 10 years. The situation has become completely unacceptable, and these atrocious optics, accompanied by a sinister government silence, should never take place on Canadian soil. Well, it has. It has for the past 10 years. How many redacted documents has this government given? How many times has this government refused to answer questions about anything for the past 10 years? I am therefore requesting and expecting immediate communication from your office or the CFIA regarding the current status of the operation, the current state of the ostriches, guidance on what our office can communicate to concerned constituents, an estimated timeline of the next steps and when updates may be expected, and the cost to date of this secrecy-shrouded fiasco. Sincerely, Scott Anderson, MP. I think this is great. This is a great letter. Let's hope he gets some responses and not just something in camera or something redacted. Something else we've been following every day when we have our program is the progress on the move not to introduce digital ID over in the UK. Over the past week, they've climbed from 2.7 to 2.9 million signatures against digital ID in the UK. And even though there is a massive push saying no, they will push ahead with it anyway, because that's who they are. Remember, it's the UK, Australia, a little bit to New Zealand, maybe not so much, and Canada. These three nations are all in cahoots with pushing forward the Agenda 2030. All right, let's move to our next story. Now, there were a lot of stories over the past week, so we've been slowly bringing in a lot of this stuff we figured we were going to cover. So we're going to go back all the way to the 11th of October. If this would just bloody load. Why is this not loading? Oh, let's just do a quick refresh. Refresh, refresh. If not, we're going to move to the next post. There we go. Right, so here's a reminder of what happened over in PEI last week. It turns out that there is quite the Chinese ownership of land happening on the island of PEI. And had an email here from Hugh Jasshole. I'm from the island. It's bad, man. Between the Chinese and the Indians, the place has gone to shit. The population grew by 40,000 in 10 years. 19,000 came since 2021. It's fucking sickening. So I obviously from this statement here, they're experiencing a lot of social pressure on the island. And this is what happens. This is what we warned the liberals would do. You have an existing culture, and then you destroy the borders. So you inundate it with a bunch of people who don't speak the language, don't share the same culture, you don't vet them, you don't instill a concept that we have a certain set of values here in Canada, and then you just let them loose, and then you destroy the local economy, the local culture, because you've done away with those three things that a country needs to survive, which is borders, language, and culture. So you destroy the language, you destroy the culture, and you don't give a smuck about the borders. And you end up with situations like this. Oh yes, shocking ostrich farm news. Now the RCMP tells the farmers' neighbors, who are also family, which I was saying earlier, that the CFIA has been gracious enough to allow them to access their own home. What in the name of communism is this? Voices heard are Alison Turnbull, Katie Sydney's cousin, and her mother Karen, Esperanza's sister, and the officer on site. Full interview soon. So of course, Rebel has posted this interview. We're not going to play this little tape here. You should go to their website and to listen to what these totalitarian, authoritarian police state a-holes are doing to our country. Coming to a place near you. Oh, by the way, one of the slogans that's been going on is police state by Christmas. All right. Job gains in some provinces, some slight losses, but in Ontario, look at this. Right? This is your liberal economy, folks. Nothing to brag about, but the liberals will brag about it anyway. So we can see here the only job growth has been in Alberta and Manitoba. Now we know a good chunk of these here are actually government jobs, but across the rest of the country, massive job losses. Ontario is really going to be hurting by Christmas. And Newfoundland, even though it's no wonder Newfoundland just elected a provincial conservative government, because all this red, well, that's what you would expect when you bring socialists into your government, because they spend with abandon and they increase inflation and they put in regulation that enriches themselves and kills business. Oh, here's a little video from Truth Seeker. Let's have a listen to her.
Every single time I turn on the Canadian news, a new law is being passed to basically tell you that you can't talk about the government or say anything against the government. And it is getting to the point where it's not even worth talking about all the bills that they're going to pass. It's, oh, now they're going to make memes illegal. They're going to shut off your internet. They're going to do this. They're telling you that, freedom of speech is actually dangerous for Canadian minds. Which Canadian minds? The liberal minds? Here, this is exactly what I think of you liberals. From the bottom of my heart, fuck you. Fuck you, fuck your entire lineage all the way back to the first amoeba because you guys believe in the evolutionary thing. So fuck you, fuck your grandma, fuck your grandpa, fuck your great uncle, all the way back to whoever fucking made you. I try and understand everybody's point of view, but I honestly cannot lobotomize myself or remove my brain in order to understand your level of fucking stupidity. And it is so ridiculous that a lot of Canadians, and I say liberal Canadians, do not see where the country is headed in. Especially when you've got a prime example of the UK, that degenerate whose eyes are way too close to his freaking head. France, that has failed twice now in 1 month. You guys know France. Macaroni gets beat up by his husband, sister, wife, teacher, whatever the fuck's going on there. I don't even care anymore. Being in the United States and seeing President Trump actually clean house and be proud of the country that was once the most amazing country, then got taken over by the liberal virus, and now he's cleaning house, and then watching the ridiculous clown show that's happening in, Canada, and then watching Carney get bent over by Donald Trump when they were in their meeting was the best thing ever. And have you noticed that the men now who sit next to Trump don't cross their legs like little bitches? And now Sean Fraser, that little cuck who likes to sit when he pees, is trying to put in another bill where he's saying that memes against hatred of somebody is going to be illegal. Fuck you, Sean Fraser. Fuck you again. What are you gonna do? Seriously. What if somebody from another country tells you to go fuck yourself? Why don't we start a meme Monday? Where every Monday I'll put up memes that will hurt Sean Fraser's little fucking sensitive feelings, and then he has to put in these laws, and that's how you know a government is failing. When they put in these ridiculous laws to shut people up, and then they're trying to, push in the digital IDs so that they can control you through money. And that's exactly what's happening in Europe and the UK.
That's exactly what they're doing. A little crude in the language, but I think it pretty well wraps up how a lot of Canadians think, except for the ones that are still brainwashed liberals out there who don't realize the direction that this country is headed in. All right, let's go to the next panel here. Oh yes, here's Jasmine Lane. Did I hear this correctly? CTV alludes that Mark Carney's vision in his book Values is actually unrealistic and unattainable in the real world? Oh, really? Is climate scam a fantasy? Well,
making it still work for us.
And Mohammed, one of the things that sort of really strikes me in this is that, that the liberals are slowly eroding or taking away different environmental protections that have been put in by the previous government there. So how does he square that when you consider that the book that he wrote entitled Values was all about growing the economy and the environment at the same time? And right now, it may not seem like to a lot of Canadians that he's favoring or that he's doing it equally. It may seem like he's favoring the economy over the environment.
Look, this is a different government. The Prime Minister had a very clear, the economy is really important. I think he's trying to find the right balance.
But it's his book. That's why I say that, right? His book was all about doing both.
Yeah, and I think he's only been a Prime Minister for a few months. Mm-hmm. And I think there is still, to assess his whole term, I think we still have some time for that. But, his first major projects, he's approving mining projects that will help with the electrification. There are other, he's looking at CCUS to help support that. There are other...
Yeah, he's trying to do a lot of things, but he's not going to get anything accomplished. Because the only things that are going to move forward are things that he put in place that is going to make Mark Carney rich. And his friends rich. And other liberals rich. Here's table salt. The government of Canada funded a report on election manipulation and deepfakes. And they concluded that the Russia Today images of Mark Carney and Ghislaine Maxwell were real. Yes. Remember when Rebel was running around with a truck with a big display on the side showing pictures of Ghislaine Maxwell, along with his Mark Carney and Mark Carney's wife, at a I think it was at a garden picnic at a big mansion somewhere at his wife's sister's mansion, I think, some place like that. Anyway, yes, they were in public together. But what are you afraid of? If the photo's real, just admit it, move on. What are you trying to hide, right? But yeah, of course, that's what the liberals have to do, right? Is they have to say it's misinformation, disinformation, and this is all part of their censorship agenda to ensure that only their vision gets through. So what did they say? RT shared a photo depicting Carney alongside Ghislaine Maxwell, a known associate of Jeffrey Epstein. While these images aligned with a wave of widely circulated AI-generated deepfakes, such as fabricated scenes of Carney and Epstein in a pool or with Maxwell on a beach, the photos posted by RT appear to be authentic, albeit taken over a decade ago. Right. Well, he's a liberal. What kind of values and ethics do you think liberals have, given the laws and legislation that they have brought in and what they have done to this country? And how they just don't care about the policies that have put in that, ends people's lives without accountability. These are the monsters we have in power. Here's table salt. Sam Cooper discusses a new U.S. Treasury report which concludes that $300 billion worth of fentanyl money is being laundered using the Chinese Communist Party Vancouver model. Isn't that awesome? Canada is now known as a model for distributing fentanyl in the U.S. So he argues that the amount may be higher in Canada. Especially if you convert it to Canadian dollars, it'd be even higher than that. So let's listen to Sam Cooper. Sam Cooper, outstanding journalist. If it wasn't for him, we probably wouldn't know a lot of the issues that the United States brought up for the reason why they just don't trust our border, because the liberals have turned Canada into a drug den. Drug trafficking and human trafficking has become out of control in Canada, and we are doing absolutely nothing about it. Again, let's listen to Sam Cooper.
The Chinese money, Sam, I mean, that was the whole subject around willful blindness, and you've weathered backlash for your China scoops and frankly risked your life covering the story. I mean, how have the handcuffs of China, have they loosened on Canada or no?
No, you're right. I do assert, and now the U.S. Treasury agrees with me. I don't know if you saw their recent report pointing to Chinese underground banking systems of the very type I described, called the Vancouver model, in the United States, laundering over $300 billion for Mexican fentanyl cartels in 4 years. That's U.S. government reporting, and that's a smaller proportion of Chinese money laundering in the United States, even though a much larger country, proportionately much smaller Chinese diaspora. In Canada, very large Chinese diaspora. And this is why I and others say Canada is a Western Hemisphere capital for Chinese Communist Party networks using Canada as a money laundering hub. So I say, the fentanyl, the meth, the ecstasy doesn't, get sent out of Canada, produced in Canada, without that money laundering architecture. And when I say architecture, I'm saying Canadian banks, law offices, and the cities of Vancouver and Toronto, multi-hundreds of billions laundered through those cities.
Wow. Canada has become a criminal enterprise under the Liberal Party of Canada, the kleptocratic Liberal Party of Canada, or is it the Liberal Socialist Party of Canada? Really hard to say. They change from minute to minute their colors and their politics to suit whatever it is they are doing at the time. Right, let's get on to the next point. All right, why was a German career criminal allowed to enter and stay in Canada? Does Mark Miller or Sean Fraser care to answer that? Here we have Gerhita Onesi is the break-and-enter criminal arrested in Montreal. He is also suspected in at least 20 other incidences. Onesi was also arrested for 13 burglaries in Germany, where he served 6 years in prison. Let's have a quick listen to this short piece.
8-year-old burglar Gov't Onise had been linked to 20 other recent robberies in the area. And according to a British news outlet, he's had multiple stints behind bars for burglaries in Europe.
Residents were very relieved. It had caused a lot of stress for the people that had these incidents.
Turns out the 58-year-old burglar Gov't Onise had been linked to 20 other recent robberies in the area. And according to a British news outlet, he's had multiple stints behind bars for burglaries in Europe.
Residents were very relieved. It had caused a lot of stress for the people that had these incidents.
Turns out the 58-year-old burglar Gov't Onise had been linked to 20 other...
Well, that's our liberal immigration system. Everything is liberal in Canada today. Everything's liberal. Here's some disgusting behavior from our liberal Montreal police. Yes, this is quite disgusting. So let's give this a bit of context. So we have the Hamas holes once again parading through Montreal, and for some reason Montreal loves them more than they love their own citizens. In fact, they codify them. They have arrested and pushed around reporters that have reported on them. They have been very antagonistic against any independent media whatsoever. They have a long history of being antagonistic against rebel news. They just don't like being exposed. I don't know if Montreal is a very old city, right? So they have a very, very old police department, which means they probably have some very, very old, deep roots of, let's say, maybe authoritarian control within the ranks, and maybe even some other activity that might not be legal. I mean, if you're going to be a police department that long in a city, and you have your cops running around, pushing around their own citizens, assaulting their seniors, which is what you're going to see right here, then you have to ask yourself, what the hell is going on with that police department? What kind of ethics and values do they have? Morals do they have within their police department that would think that this is a normal, polite thing to do for the citizens you're supposed to be protecting? Let's bring this up to full size. You see that? Good on you. Good on you there, Montreal police. Pushing around old folks, peacefully protesting. Right? They're not assaulting anybody. And you walked right up to them, started getting into their faces, and then you grabbed the senior and you pushed him onto the ground. And for this, I doubt the cop will have any repercussions whatsoever. Who knows? I'm sure Rebel News will follow up on this. And if not Rebel News, there are some other independent media in Montreal, like Natasha Montreal. She's there all the time. Oh, look at her. There's Natasha Montreal right there. SPVM force Quebec patriots off the road to let pro-Hamas demonstrators march through. A police officer says the terrorist sympathizers have freedom of expression. The patriot asks, what about his own? Canadians are second-class citizens in their own country. Let's have a quick listen to the Gestapo.
Why? Why can't they go the other way? Why don't they go the other way? On les laisse passer, puis s'en aille. They should not be even allowed to do this. Now you want to move on. What? Le droit d'expression. Le droit d'expression pour qui? Pour nous. C'est mon droit d'expression. C'est mon droit d'expression, monsieur. Donc tu dis que c'est leur droit d'expression contre le mien. Les deux, mais tu me demandes.
Why are governments across this country codifying, coddling these Jew-hating paraders? They're parading across Canada, everywhere, in all the major cities, waving their flags, blocking traffic, breaking the law. And people love them for it. just crazy. Now, here's Frances Widdowson. If you don't know who she is, she's been very active in trying to basically get academia to recognize their stupidity in acknowledging fake history. So, this is the result of decades of condescension that does nothing to address the terrible conditions faced by the marginalized Aboriginal population. Here we have a YouTuber filming his walk through East Hastings, Vancouver, was approached by a man who told him he was recording on his land. Now, imagine this level of intimidation that is occurring here and how unsafe you would feel. Now, it's just a YouTuber filming, but this could be happening to anybody on the streets because these people have been emboldened to act this way by this very liberal government. Let's listen.
How you doing?
How are you?
West Coast Walker.
Yeah.
How are you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You must know who I am, yeah?
No, I don't know who you are.
Yeah?
Why are you touching me?
Be careful, bro.
You be careful, bro.
Walk out of here. Eh?
Why? I can't walk here in my own city?
Oh, you born here?
Yeah. You?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's my land, bro.
Yeah, well, it's my land too, because I was born here, bro.
Who's making money then, eh?
Yeah? No,
Who's making money then?
I don't have a right to record on my...
Yeah,
on
exactly.
Why?
Get the fuck out of here, bro.
Why?
Take your fucking shit down, bro.
Why? What's your problem, bro?
You tell me.
You harassing people on the street for no reason?
Yeah?
Yeah? Bring it. Bring it on, asshole. I don't give a fuck who you are. How you doing?
So, this is where we've come to in Canada. After 10 years of liberal mismanagement of our society and our culture, we have this happening now. We have Hamassals running in the streets, we have crime out of control, and now we have emboldened the Aboriginal population to intimidate the local population. What a beautiful country Canada has become under the Liberals. Well, let's look at Canada here. In the UK, you're not allowed to sing church songs outside of church grounds, apparently. Yes, in the UK, where over 12,000 people a year now are getting arrested for saying hurty words online or posting memes or upsetting the government or whatever the hell it is. They're put in the digital gulag. They're just thrown in jail, right? Oh, you posted something nasty online. We're going to throw you in jail. You're not allowed to talk that way. Well, this entire cultural Marxist movement across the UK, Australia, Canada, the only way for them to work is to completely destroy Christianity, is to completely destroy cultural values that are based on Christianity, values and ethics based on Christianity, and anyone else that likes to practice Christian faith. Which is why they are marginalized at every aspect under the guise of equity or diversity. Oh, there's too many Christians. We have to bring in other people. We have to give other people your jobs. Even though your job is open to everybody, we'll just make it not open to you. Right? That's government policy. Now, this is reflected in this attitude by this cop right here. She doesn't have a lot of sight, but just... the fact that they're emboldened to act this way is insane.
Anywhere.
No, miss, you're not allowed to sing church songs outside of church grounds, by the way.
You're not allowed to sing church songs outside
of church songs or church
you're not allowed
grounds. That's fine. That's
you're
fine.
not allowed. She just said you're not allowed to sing church songs outside of church.
Our church outside the church grounds, unless you have
That's
you've
a load
been
of rubbish.
authorized by the church to do this kind of song.
He's not saying anything anymore.
Are you saying that you don't care about the Human Rights Act? You're lost? Ah!
Yeah. That's how cultural Marxists act, right? They don't care about the law. It's their ideology that remains important. Here's a piece by Honest Reporting of Canada. An October 10th segment, CBC radio host Brent Bradbury, marking the October 7th anniversary and the ceasefire negotiations, opted to skip any interview with an Israeli, preferring instead to speak with only a Palestinian, Safinaz el-Sol. Once again, Israeli suffering is downplayed because the CBC, like the liberal government that they publish their propaganda for, are acting like anti-Semites in everything that they do. They can say, "Oh no, we treat everyone with respect." Well, actions speak louder than words, and we've been watching your actions, CBC. We've been watching your actions, and well, they tell a very specific story. Let's move on to the next panel. By Table Salt. Let's watch Sneaky, the exact method the liberals use to water down hate speech laws and make hate crime prosecutions far easier for Canadian meme police.
Have you reviewed the Supreme Court's definition of the phrase hatred in advance of drafting Bill C-9? Yes or no?
Yes.
The Supreme Court's definition of hatred includes the words emotion of an intense and extreme nature. Why have you dropped those words from your proposed definition of Bill C-9?
The extreme and intense description is captured by the words vilification and detestation.
I don't agree with you that you can have a disdain or dislike that it's not necessarily extreme in nature or not intense in nature. And I also note that the definition is conjunctive. It's both intense and extreme, something that the Supreme Court has clearly articulated and is still good case law today. Were you instructed by the minister or any political staff to drop the words intense and extreme nature from the definition?
No.
Right. I'd like to go back to your point, Mr. Ripley, with respect to the screening process in private prosecutions. A magistrate or a justice of the peace would either green light process to issue on private prosecutions or not. However, in almost all cases, the informant, so the complainant, would have an ability to appeal that decision to judicial review and take that to divisional court. And the accused is typically a party or an invited party to such a proceeding. And so even though there may be no cause for criminal charges to be instigated, the alleged accused would be dragged before the divisional court, would have to incur legal fees, would have to suffer reputational risks, time inconvenience, to be accused of a criminal charge. Don't you see how this potentially opens itself up to abuse, to ruin the lives of ordinary Canadians who should not be before a criminal court?
Acknowledge that they can, in that kind of situation, it can still have an impact on the accused.
Yeah, that just gave me enough time to make another cup of coffee. Let's move on to the next panel. Another one by Jasmine Lane. Watch Conservative MP Strauss expose the truth behind government overreach, internet censorship, and digital gulags.
It says any threat. And as far as I can tell, given the Liberals' incautious and bombastic use of terms like misinformation, that being any information they don't like, or existential threat, for instance, the member from Milton called the leader of my party an existential threat to our democracy, which is, of course, bananas. So given their incautious and bombastic use of these phrases, it seems to me that the industry minister could deem any speech she doesn't like any threat, and then kick that person off the internet. This section reaches Chinese Communist Party levels of government overreach, and they should be ashamed of themselves. The bill gets worse, it does not get better, Mr. Speaker. 15.2 Clause 5 gives the minister the ability to make her decision to kick someone off the internet. Secret. So imagine that. You've annoyed the Liberal Party overlords, and they've decided to kick you off the internet and cut your phone line. You can't tell anyone that you've been cut off. I have no idea how this could even possibly be enforced, but imagine being put effectively in a digital gulag unable to use the phone or the internet or your online banking, and if you tell anyone that this happened, you could go to physical jail. I do not doubt that the Liberals will stand and say that I'm being somehow outlandish in my interpretation of this. I am not.
So this is true. This is what I've been warning about. I've already put out a couple of videos. It's already mentioned in there. It's just insane that Canada is heading towards a police state by Christmas with all these bills that they have tabled. And really, the only thing that's going to save us from this authoritarianism, as it stands right now, is if each of these bills are completely dismembered as they go to committee, just like Bill C2 was. But all they did was actually divide the bill. So that other nasty part of the bill is still separate, that they want to table separately. So that means there's still hope that that will be worked on. But the existing C2 now has had that part stripped out. But there's still Bill C8. There's still Bill C9. There are still things in the other bills. And there are still 10 years worth of liberal mismanagement and infiltration of cultural Marxism by instituting DEI throughout the entire government. That has now placed ideology ahead of merit. And when you put that ahead of merit, that means that all you get is the lowest possible denominator of service everywhere. How's your government service these days, Canada? They've hired tons and tons of people, but service just keeps getting worse and worse. I wonder why that is. Could it be because the workplace has been turned into a cesspool of victim-oppressor narrative where everybody is too concerned about doing the right thing rather than just doing their job? Because that's what happens under Marxism. Well, good enough for government work. You'd be lucky if you get 45 minutes of work out of each worker each day. Here we have Andy Lee. I'm so relieved that the genocide is finally over so that all the innocent Palestinians can return to their peaceful existence. Meanwhile, today in Gaza, viewer discretion. I'm not going to play this. You can see what they're doing. These people are barbarians. And as we know, since the ceasefire was signed, and apparently they got peace, and I said it right then and there on Twitter at the time, it's not going to last. It never does. Know them by what they do. And what have the Hamas holes done? Every single time there's been a ceasefire, they've broken it. Every single bloody time. Now, of course, if you look online, they'll make you think that Israeli broke the ceasefire. No, Israeli didn't break the ceasefire. Hamas holes broke it. They always do. They started launching rocket launch grenades at the Israelis, started sniping at them. It's because it's what they do. They can't help themselves. It's in their ideology to hate and want to kill all the Jews. So that's not going to change overnight. It'll take generations to change. Right, well, let's move on to the next panel. So it's 2:10. Apparently it's 5 more minutes before question period starts. And let's bring up my corner panel here so I can make sure that we are just looking at statements from the members so far. Yep. All right, what's going on with Mark Nixon in Montreal today? So that would have been back on the 12th of October. Canada, under Mark Carney. Not one Canadian flag. These are the patriots the Liberals support. We are so cooked. Indeed we are. Look at this. Look at this insanity going on in Montreal.
Five! We free our land! Five! We free our land! Six! We get the out!
Like, why is this happening in Canada? Why has this division, why has this stupidity been brought to Canada? The Liberals brought these people in, right? The Liberals brought this hatred into our country. This is not going on in Canada. We did not have this issue in Canada until the Liberals came in back into power in 2015 and then started importing all this hate and division. There's no reason for this to occur here. We are not in the Middle East. If these people want to change the situation in the Middle East, they should get their asses over there instead of parading in our streets and causing all these problems in Canada. Canada's a shithole. Look at this. Why would a tourist want to come to a place like this? Really? This is what you want? Let's move on to the next panel, where we have, Maple Blooded. What's he got for us? Marelich and Chris Barber were convicted for mischief, even though nobody witnessed them doing anything. That's right. If you listen to the trial transcripts, they didn't do anything other than follow direction from the police from the onset. They coordinated with the police the entire freedom protest, but somehow they ended up in jail. They ended up under house arrest. Meanwhile, we have these assholes on the streets blocking traffic all the time, right? So that by standard, every person protesting in this channel off intersection would have been arrested and charged, right? So look at us, a chain. Did the freedom protests put chains across the roads? No, they coordinated with police. Look at this. This is insane. This is what these Hamas-holes are doing in Canada. Right, let's move on to the next panel. While we still wait for the House to sit. I mean, they're sitting in the House. They're all stating their statements at the moment. At the moment, it's Todd Doherty. He's putting a statement up. All right. What are we? Oh, statements by members. Still a statement by members. Yes. Yeah. No. The House leaders haven't come into the House yet. So Malcolm Twizzle here on X states, Liberals are gloating, trying to take credit for the 60,000 jobs created in Canada last month. Too bad 42,000, over 70% of them, were created by Alberta, by Smith, and by her government. Yeah, I knew it. Knew it at the time, because they dropped this figure on Friday afternoon in the House of Commons during question period. No warning whatsoever, because they were being, hammered on the jobs issue. And they were like, we created 60,000 jobs. Yeah, the government doesn't create jobs. The government is not in the business of creating jobs. It should never be in a position of creating jobs. Because if you're depending on the government to create jobs, well, that's communism. And what do we know about communist economies? Is that they are horrible. When people line up so they can all get their small piece of a salami hanging in the window because there's nothing else to eat. That's the future of communism. And that's why the jobs are created in the provinces where there's actually jobs to be had. Not in the rest of Canada being run by left-wing maroons. And we still have... It's actually 2:15. We're almost there. Right, so Pierre Poilievre this week has gone and finally spoken up against diversity, equity, and inclusion, and the far left are losing their bloody mind. Here is reposting. DEI should be dismantled and meritocracy should be restored. And what a lot of people don't understand is that diversity, equity, inclusion does not mean diversity, equality, inclusion. Equity is not equality. Equity is bringing everything down to the lowest common denominator. Right? Equality is equality of outcomes. Equity is equity of outcomes. Equity means that you have to bring everything down to the lowest common denominator so you don't offend anybody above that lowest common denominator. Sorry, just looking over at my other panel. Diversity, equity, inclusion has completely destroyed the government. It's destroyed the Canadian Armed Forces. It has destroyed the RCMP. Every single department now has its own DEI department on it. It funnels additional revenue to run your company, to run these ideological departments that constantly monitor people's attitudes. Instead of acting like human resources, because that's an HR thing, is to deal with those issues on the side, other than being a manager. You would deal with these issues as a manager, or you send them off to HR. But now you have another level of bureaucracy, which is what the Liberals love to do, adding that DEI level. Oh, you didn't think right? You need another struggle session because you're not thinking right. Sorry, looking at the corner panel here, we still have statements by members. So now you have these departments. And of course, and if you go, and I'm working on a piece with this for RMC, because the Royal Military College, are very proud of their DEI. They've been doing these reports on their college since 2020 on their progress of implementing DEI. And when you look at the page of the DEI manager for the RMC, what's the thing at the very top of the page? Land acknowledgement. That's right. It's all part and parcel of destroying Western civilization from within. This UNDRIP, United Nations DRIP, basically where they just give back all the land to the indigenous people on the planet wherever they lived, thus destroying those nations, which is what they want to do for Canada, which is why recently we have seen a lot of the land just being arbitrarily given to natives out in BC, thus destroying private property and the ability to hold on to it. But it's funny how that UNDRIP doesn't seem to apply to the Jews from Judea in the United Nations, eh? Yeah. It's because they're hypocrites. That's right, because the whole concept of Marxism, of cultural Marxism, is the end goal to gain control. Because within cultural Marxism is the Hegelian deconstructionism that occurs all the time, whereby they're never happy with the result that they get. That's why they always love the victim-oppressor narrative. Because there always needs to be somebody oppressed, and there always needs to be an oppressor. Because you always need to create a crisis in order to manage that. Okay, Ron McKinnon here from Liberals, still doing his statement from the members. Here we have Ryan Gerritsen. Looks like Carney is recycling footage from a trip in August to make it look like he stopped by to visit service members this Thanksgiving. And statements by members still? Oh, no, we are starting. All right, let's go. What's going on? And let's get some volume here. Okay, it's right after this guy. Oh no, after the next guy. All right, come on, Ron. We're done with you. Yes, Ron. Thank you. Thank you, Ron.
In 10 budgets, the Liberals doubled debt, doubled lines at food banks, and doubled the cost of housing. Every dollar that the government spends comes out of Canadians' pockets. And fridges are empty, Mr. Speaker. Has the government learned the costly lessons that its deficits and taxes increase the cost of living? And will they reverse these inflationist policies in their budget? The Honourable Government House Leader, Mr. Speaker, we'll be talking about those issues quite a bit in the coming weeks, but last week the Leader of the Opposition questioned the independence of our legal system, of the police, and the integrity of police officers, the police officers who put their lives on the line to protect us. Today he has the opportunity to make amends in an honourable way before this House. In the next 30 seconds, the Leader of the Opposition has the opportunity to make amends. Will he do that?
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, the Liberals are trying to distract Canadians from their inflation with their corruption, Mr. Speaker. They now have 4 inflationist taxes on food. The industrial carbon tax, which applies to equipment on farms. The packaging tax at grocery stores. The diesel standards tax, and their inflationist taxes. Canadians can no longer pay their bills. They can't afford their groceries. Will the Liberals reverse these inflationist policies so Canadians can eat? The Honourable Government House Leader.
A lot of opportunity to talk about the taxes, the imaginary taxes that the Leader of the Opposition comes up with. But last week, the Leader of the Opposition put into question the independence of our judiciary, of the independence of our prosecutors, of the police. In fact, the very police that put their lives on the line to protect him, Mr. Speaker. The Leader has the next 30 seconds to make amends, to apologize, to tell the people of this chamber and this House that he is sorry for what he said. We don't do that in Canada, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Liberals are trying to distract from their inflation and rising cost of living by talking about their corruption. This will be the 10th Liberal budget. Already, they've doubled the debt, food bank lineups, and housing costs. Every dollar the government spends comes directly out of the pockets of Canadians who can no longer afford to eat, heat, and house themselves. Their fridges are empty, Mr. Speaker. Will they learn these costly lessons? Will they cap their inflationary deficits and get rid of their insane taxes on groceries?
The Honourable Government House Leader. Mr. Speaker, the Leader of the Opposition is inventing scenarios to distract from the story. The Leader of the Opposition has had 2 opportunities to apologize to the RCMP, our judges, and our legal system. He has refused to do that. In terms of inflationist spending, so-called inflationist spending, from the opposition leader, well, he still hasn't suggested one single way to cut or identified what spending, what support for which Canadians he thinks is inflationary, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, tragically, 3,000 auto workers in Brampton learned that the Prime Minister had sold them out and failed them in negotiations with the United States of America. To make matters worse, this Liberal government and this Liberal finance minister forked over $15 billion, tax dollars, to the company that is moving their jobs south. So surely the government would have negotiated a jobs guarantee for every single Canadian Stellantis employee. Will they release that guarantee and the entire contract so Canadians know where their dollars went?
The Honourable Minister of Industry.
Mr. Speaker, of course, what Stellantis announced for the Brampton plant last week was completely unacceptable. And Stellantis has made solemn commitments to this government and to their workers, and they need to honor their commitments. And that's why we will hold them to account. While my colleagues are just right now talking, we already know that in committee we said that we would agree to the production of documents. Thank you.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, surely Stellantis would not be announcing that it is moving a 3,000 worker plant to the United States of America if this government had negotiated job guarantees in that contract for $15 billion. To put this into perspective, $15 billion is $1,000 for every single family in Canada that was supposed to create jobs. So simple yes or no question. Is there an ironclad guarantee of every single worker's job here in Canada in exchange for that $15 billion handout?
The Honourable Minister of Industry.
Mr. Speaker, let me be extremely clear. We will fight for these jobs because Canadian auto workers are the best auto workers in the world. And we will make sure that Stellantis face all consequences, including legal ones. That being said, an hour ago, I met here in Ottawa with the head of Canadian Stellantis, with the head of Unifor, and also with the Minister of Economic Development of Ontario. We're one strong team, Canada, and we will make sure that these jobs stay in Brampton.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, still no answer. It was the finance minister, the present-day finance minister, who is in charge of a $500 billion forthcoming Liberal budget that was the one who signed this deal. And amazingly, barely 2 years after he signed it and forked over 15 billion Canadian tax dollars, the company receiving it is moving the jobs to the United States of America. That minister claims she might take legal action. She can't do that unless there's actually a job guarantee. So will she tell us, yes or no, does every Canadian Stellantis worker have a job guarantee?
The Honourable Minister of Industry.
Mr. Speaker, when this government negotiates contracts, they're good ones. And so my colleague will have the chance to see these contracts. That being said, we will make sure to put full pressure on the company. These jobs need to stay in Brampton. These jobs need to stay in Canada. And ultimately, the future of the auto sector is...
So in committee, the Liberals tried to hide those contracts.
The preacher Uthman Ibn Farouk is giving speaking conferences across Canada despite his history of hate speech. For example, he believes it's acceptable to capture women and turn them into sex slaves. This type of rhetoric has earned him a ban from the United Kingdom and even from Canada, but he'll have no problem repeating these remarks in his video conferences because they're protected by the Criminal Code. In fact, the Criminal Code exempts hate speech from consequences if it's made in a religious context. Will the government finally abolish this religious exemption? The Honourable Minister of Canadian Culture. I'd like to thank my colleague for her question. As she knows very well, hate speech has no place in Canada. The federal government has a number of tools to fight hate speech, and we will do everything that we can to work to ensure that Canadians are free from this kind of speech. The Honourable Member for Saint-Jean. Mr. Speaker, UQAM quickly banned a conference by the preacher on its premises, and we must applaud that decision. But fans of hate speech, misogyny, homophobia, and more will still be able to attend 7 of his conferences across Canada and even in Quebec in Brossard. This rhetoric has no place in Quebec or in Canada, yet the federal government protects it under the Criminal Code. When will the Liberals finally have the political courage to abolish the religious exemption that allows hate speech? The Honourable Minister. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. As my colleague has noted, there is a conference that was cancelled because it was hate speech. We have a number of tools, and we've tabled a bill in the previous Parliament to fight online hate speech. I will work on this issue as Minister of Heritage, and we will continue to work to fight hate speech in all its forms across the country. The Honourable Member for Rivière-du-Nord. Mr. Speaker, the federal government is speaking out of both sides of its mouth when it comes to hate speech. Canada has banned Uthman Ibn Farouk because of his hateful comments. It's true, he's too dangerous to be allowed into the country. We agree. But these same hateful comments are protected under 319 of the Criminal Code. It's allowed in Canada to engage in hate speech if it's done under the guise of religion. Mr. Speaker, if the preacher's speeches are hateful enough for Canada to ban him from entering the country, does the government not agree that they're hateful enough to be prohibited under the Criminal Code? The Honourable Minister. Mr. Speaker, beyond the bill that we tabled in the previous Parliament on hate speech online, in Bill C9, which is before the House right now, Mr. Speaker, which is going to be debated in the coming weeks, there is an element that is specifically focused on hate speech. The federal government is very proactive on this question, and we will continue to be.
The Honourable Member for Foothills. The Prime Minister's broken promises are costing Canadians. The Prime Minister said he would lower grocery costs for Canadians, but in fact, food prices are rising twice as quickly now as they did under Trudeau. And it's because of the Liberal hidden taxes on food. And it's not imaginary. The Liberal government's own analysis said their food packaging tax increased costs on Canadians by $1 billion. Wow. A Deloitte study said it would increase fresh produce costs 34%. Will the Prime Minister scrap his hidden taxes on food, or will he break another promise to Canadians? The Honourable Minister of Jobs and Families.
Well, good news for Canadians, Mr. Speaker. Last week, the Prime Minister announced that we're making the school food program permanent. So I take from the question of the member opposite. That means, Mr. Speaker, that Canadian kids all across the country are getting good quality food at school, saving families about $800 a year at the grocery store. But I hope from the nature of that question, Mr. Speaker, we can count on the party opposite to support this budget.
The Honourable Member for Foothills.
But it was the Liberals who voted against scrapping their hidden taxes on food. And now we have 1 in 4 Canadians not knowing where their next meal is coming from.
Bans on plastic food packaging, front-of-pack labeling. Those will increase the cost of fresh produce 34%. The Liberals were warned these policies would increase costs on consumers, and those warnings were heeded. There is 4 million Canadians going to be forced to use a food bank this year, up 345% from 2015. Will the Prime Minister scrap his hidden taxes on food so Canadians can afford to feed their families?
The Honourable Minister of Jobs and Families.
Mr. Speaker, most Canadians know or ought to know that there isn't tax on food, and in fact, these are imaginary taxes. You know what's not imaginary, Mr. Speaker? The $8,000 in the Canadian family's bank account for a child under 6 that will be deposited today. Something that those Conservatives have voted against time and time again. When they have an opportunity, Mr. Speaker, to make life more affordable for Canadians, they vote against the interests of Canadian families time after time.
Honourable Member for Cambridge.
Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister told Canadians to judge them by the prices they pay at the grocery store. So let's do just that. Sherry, a senior in Cambridge, wrote to me this week. She sent a photo of her grocery receipt, $197 for a few basics that won't last the week. The cause, hidden Liberal taxes like the industrial carbon tax on farmers who grow the food. These taxes are buried in everyday essentials. Runaway Liberal spending has turned the grocery aisle into a luxury lane. With the budget coming, Canadians like Sherry want to know, will the government axe the hidden taxes and rein in the spending so they can afford to eat?
The Honourable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, every time there's a chance to stand up for Canadian families, these Conservatives vote against their interests. Whether it's increases to seniors' benefits, Mr. Speaker, voted against it. Whether it's ensuring that food costs remain low for Canadians, voted against it. Mr. Speaker, Canadians expect governments to work on their behalf, and they know they can't trust these Conservatives.
The Honourable Member for Cambridge.
Mr. Speaker, same old answers. Let's talk about those so-called programs. 9 out of 10 kids do not get fed by this failed food program. The Liberals take food away from families to instead feed the government's constantly expanding bureaucracy. If those programs were working, then food bank visits would be going down, not up. Since this Prime Minister took office, beef strip loin is up 28%. Sugar is up 19%. Apples are up 13%. These aren't luxuries. They're everyday essentials being priced out of Canadian diets, forcing kids to go to bed hungry. So I'll ask again, will the government finally listen to the evidence and stop their reckless spending so families...
The Honourable Minister.
You know what, Mr. Speaker, when you visit food banks, one of the things they ask is to make the school food program permanent. And we listen, Mr. Speaker. That's what responsible governments do. We work with partners to make sure that we have programs across the country that reach hungry bellies. And that's what we're doing, saving Canadian families on average $800 a year. But these Conservatives vote against families time and time again. Mr. Speaker, they literally take food out of kids' mouths.
The Honourable Member for Kitchener Centre.
Mr. Speaker, Canadians are feeling the financial squeeze not just at the pumps but across the board. While the Liberals claim that these are imaginary taxes, the truth is they're hidden fuel taxes on buried regulatory fees and carbon pricing, quietly driving up the cost of groceries and transportation. These aren't just line items. They're daily realities for working families in Kitchener Centre. Will they axe their 17-cent fuel tax on their upcoming budget so Canadians can finally afford to live?
The Honourable Secretary of State for Seniors.
While the Conservatives continue to suggest these imaginary taxes exist on food, we are ensuring that there is real food for real bellies. Children in schools get fed. They vote against feeding children, while over here we're ensuring that children have the food that they need, that Canadians have the support that they need, while they continue to suggest imaginary taxes and work against Canadians' interests.
The Honourable Member for Bellechasse, Les Etchemins-Lévis. The Prime Minister said he should be judged on grocery prices. And it's clear that his taxes, like the packaging tax, are driving prices up. And it's hidden from you, Mr. Speaker. These taxes are so sneaky that they're built right into the prices you see. They don't even show up on your receipt. But what we've now learned, Mr. Speaker, is that the packaging tax will cost Canadians $1.3 billion by 2032. Can the Prime Minister put an end to these hidden taxes on food so that Quebecers and Canadians can afford to eat properly?
The Honourable Secretary of State for Children and Youth.
Merci, Monsieur.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The opposition is talking about imaginary taxes. What we're doing on this side of the House is we are delivering for Canadian families. We've delivered a national school food program for kids across Canada, and our government will continue to be there to help families and children. Thank you. The Honourable Member for Bellechasse, Les-Etchemins-Lévis. You know, we're not living in the same world, Mr. Speaker. There will be over 4 million visits to food banks this year. That's a 128% increase under the Liberals. Here in Quebec, the organization Les Frigos Pleins has provided more than 1,600 emergency food deliveries in just 4 months. That's almost half the total for all of last year. The industrial carbon tax, the food packaging tax, clean fuel regulations. These are all measures that increase the cost of transporting, producing, and marketing food, Mr. Speaker. The Prime Minister said he should be judged on grocery prices. Does he realize, Mr. Speaker, that the judgment is in and it's not in his favor? The Honourable Secretary of State. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Canadian Federation of Teachers has said that it's fantastic news concerning our school food program. That program is now permanent, and they thank the government for making it a priority. We are there for families, for children, to help with the cost of living. This program is putting over $800 in parents' pockets by helping them with food. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Honourable Member for Mirabel. Mr. Speaker, the Bloc Québécois has made 6 demands for the upcoming budget, which can be summarized as follows. Quebec must be given the means to take care of Quebecers. There has to be an increase in health transfers without conditions. Given the cost of living, we need an increase in old age pensions for people aged 65 to 74. We also need to reimburse Quebecers for the $814 million that the federal government stole from us to give Canadians election bribes in the form of fake carbon rebates. Those are our conditions. Will the government respond to the needs of Quebecers? The Honourable Government House Leader. Mr. Speaker, you'll allow us to be a little bit perplexed on this side of the House. First of all, the leader of the Bloc Québécois said that it was unimaginable that they could support the budget. And now the Bloc has come up with a series of non-negotiable demands. So maybe there's some openness on that side to support the budget. I think, Mr. Speaker, that the Bloc Québécois should read the budget and then make a decision. The Honourable Member for Mirabel. Mr. Speaker, this budget must also allow us to meet the great challenges of our time, and that includes housing, which requires a permanent transfer to Quebec without conditions for the construction of social and community housing. There's also access to home ownership, which requires loans for first-time home buyers to cover the down payment. There's also infrastructure, which requires a new unconditional transfer to Quebec. These budget requests are unavoidable because the challenges are unavoidable, Mr. Speaker. Can we count on the government on November 4th? The Honourable Government House Leader. Well, Mr. Speaker, as a member for Gatineau, I can assure you that Quebecers are already counting on the support of this government when it comes to housing. We have very strong agreements with all of Quebec. We have put in place a new program which allows young people to ensure that they have the funds they need to buy a new home. We've acted across the line. We didn't need the Bloc Québécois to ask for that because we have 42 strong MPs from Quebec, and we know what Quebecers want and need in the budget, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Northumberland Clark.
Every dollar the Prime Minister spends comes out of the pockets of hard-working Canadians. His finance minister was industry minister for the same Trudeau government that doubled the debt and promised that it would lead to more investment. The result? The worst per capita GDP growth in the G7 and more than a 10% drop in investment. Now the Prime Minister is set to double the Trudeau-era deficits. Will the Prime Minister keep his promise and keep the deficit under $42 billion?
Well done.
The Honourable Secretary of State for Financial Institutions.
Mr. Speaker, I don't know where the members opposite have been, but over the last week we've announced a series of affordability measures, automatic tax filing, school food program. We've got taxes for 22 million Canadians. We've got the GST for first-time home buyers. Interest rates are down. Mr. Speaker, we were elected on this side to build the strongest economy, most resilient economy in the G7, and that's exactly what we're going to do. Thank you.
The Honourable Member for Northumberland, Clark.
Mr. Speaker, if more government spending was the solution, then Canada would have the most prosperous economy in the G7. The result, we have the slowest in the G7. The Liberals can call it all they want. They can call it the government spending, government investment, the fluffy kitten fund. The result is the same. It comes out of the pockets of hard-working Canadians. Once again, will the Prime Minister keep his promise and keep the deficit under $42 billion?
The Honourable Secretary of State for Financial Institutions.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, on November 4th, we are going to table the most transformational budget in our country's history. We're going to spend less. We're going to invest more in nation-building projects, in infrastructure, in homes. Mr. Speaker, we are elected on this side to strengthen our economy. We've got a leader who is serious about the economy versus a leader who's never worked in the economy. Mr. Speaker, we were elected to deliver for Canadians. That's exactly what we're going to do. Thank you.
The Honourable Member for Cloverdale, Langley City.
Mr. Speaker, Canadians were told that borrowing billions would make their lives better. But 10 years later, the only thing growing faster than the debt is the cost of living. This year alone, they have to refinance $473 billion in debt, and that will only get harder if this government keeps spending like the bill will never come due. You can't spend your way out of inflation. So will the Prime Minister keep his word and hold the deficit under $42 billion in the next budget?
The Honourable Secretary of State for Seniors.
The Conservatives keep talking about cuts that they want to make to programs that Canadians rely on. They keep expecting us to make decisions that would take food out of children's mouths, Mr. Speaker, that would ensure that seniors have no old age security. We know that on their record that they vote against increases to seniors' benefits. We know that they have a record of pushing the retirement age higher and cutting benefits and leaving seniors behind. This is what they want us to do on this side of the House. We won't do that, Mr. Speaker. We will stand up for Canadians.
The Honourable Member for Cloverdale, Langley City.
When a family can't balance its books, they lose the trust of the bank. When a government can't, it loses the trust of investors. And that's dangerous when we have to refinance $473 billion this year alone. If Canada looks reckless, borrowing will only get more expensive and every Canadian will pay the price. Canada needs a budget that shows fiscal discipline, but our current finance minister is the same guy who helped Trudeau double our debt as the industry minister. Will this Prime Minister show some fiscal discipline and commit to not exceed his $42 billion promise in the upcoming budget?
The Honourable Secretary of State for Seniors.
We are investing in Canadians. We're investing in a future that ensures that Canada is the top of the G7 countries fiscally, whereas the Conservatives want us to achieve economic goals that will ensure that children don't have food in their bellies when they're at school. They want us to achieve the economic goals that they're looking for on the backs of Canadians. These are real programs, Mr. Speaker, not like the imaginary taxes that they keep referring to. These are things that Canadians really rely on and will ensure that all of us have what we need to position ourselves for the future.
Honourable Member for Yellowhead.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I've been a CPA for 26 years, and I've worked with Canadians as they navigate their personal taxes and finances under fiscal mismanagement of this Liberal government. Budgets do not balance themselves, as the Prime Minister knows well with his background. So there is no excuse to continue the fiscal disaster he inherited from his predecessor. My question is simple. Will the Prime Minister keep his promise and ensure the deficits will not exceed the outrageous $42 billion deficit of Justin Trudeau?
Hear, hear. The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Finance. Excuse me.
This government...
Sorry, didn't hear the mic didn't seem to be on. Could the member start from the top, please?
Bring it out the big guns. Canadians know that this government was elected with a strong mandate to build the strongest economy in the G7. And I know that we're on the right track. You know how I know? Because the experts say so. I know the opposition members may not agree, but who said Canada is fiscally sustainable? Former Parliamentary Budget Officer Kevin Page. Who said Canada is attracting the attention of global investors around the world? The CEO of our largest pension plan. Who said diversifying trade and investing in infrastructure will boost productivity? The Bank of Canada Governor, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for Oakville West.
Mr. Speaker, Bill C-12, Strengthening Canada's Immigration System and Borders Act, which is before the House today, reflect our government's commitment to protecting Canadians. By expanding border security resources, fighting transnational organized crime, stopping the flow of illegal fentanyl, and cracking down on illicit financing at the border, while supporting our frontline officers and reinforcing the integrity of our immigration system. Could the Minister of Public Safety tell Canadians how this critical legislation enhances our ability to protect them and keep our communities safe? Thank you.
The Honourable Minister of Public Safety.
Mr. Speaker, let me thank the member for Oakville West for the very important question. I also want to thank her for the hard work that she does with Halton Regional Police. I had the opportunity to visit her last week, Mr. Speaker. From January 1st to September 19th, CPSA seized close to 2,600 grams of fentanyl, 770,000 grams of other opioids, 662 firearms, and over 11,000 prohibited weapons, Mr. Speaker. Bill C-12 will enhance law enforcement's ability to do their work, as will the additional 1,000 CPSA and RCMP officers we'll be hiring to keep Canadians.
The honourable member for Kildonan St. Paul.
The Liberals signed a $15 billion deal to subsidize Stellantis to produce electric vehicle batteries in Canada, promising it would secure Canadian jobs. But now planned production for Brampton is relocating to the U.S. and 3,000 jobs are at risk here in Canada. At the same time, Stellantis has announced $13 billion of investment in the U.S. that will create tens of thousands of American jobs. So under Liberals, taxpayers are subsidizing a company that's moving billions of investment and jobs out of Canada. How could the Liberals make one of the biggest corporate subsidies in Canadian history without a Canada-wide jobs guarantee?
Honourable Minister of Industry.
Decision by Stellantis to move its production from the Brampton plant is completely unacceptable, and that is why this morning we were with the Conservative government of Ontario, with Unifor, with Stellantis, to make sure that we would be one strong Team Canada, because we need to make sure that the 3,000 jobs in Brampton are back. So I hope that I can work with my colleague, with all the MPs in this place, because we need to be Canada strong on this. Thank you.
The honourable member for Kildonan St. Paul.
The fact is, Canadians are paying $15 billion for EV battery production. It's a 100% subsidy for those batteries, Mr. Speaker, but there's no public evidence the Liberals have secured job guarantees for the broader Stellantis footprint here in Canada. There are thousands of auto sector jobs on the line here, Mr. Speaker. Canadians deserve to know, in exchange for $15 billion of their tax dollars, did the Liberals secure a guarantee to protect every single Stellantis job in Canada? Yes or no?
The Honourable Minister of Industry.
Mr. Speaker, I know my colleague is very interested in this issue, which is normal, and of course this is my #1 priority right now, but she already knows the answer. The documents will be presented and produced before the committee, and of course you'll have access to the information. My goal is to make sure that we work together, because we need to fight as one Canada strong on this issue.
The honourable member for Kildonan St. Paul.
I'm very interested to know what the Minister of Industry knows about these contracts. Perhaps she can answer this simple question. How many Canada-wide jobs did the Liberals guarantee for $15 billion that they gave Stellantis? How many jobs? Can she tell us?
The Honourable Minister of Industry.
Mr. Speaker, let me be extremely clear. The auto sector in Canada is victim of unjustifiable and unjustified 25% tariff by the American administration, period. Meanwhile, the auto workers are trying every day to make sure that they develop the best product on the face of the earth. And that's what we'll continue to help them to do while we're facing trade tensions with the American government. Meanwhile, Mr. Speaker, we will work with Doug Ford's administration, with Unifor as one Canadian team, because we need to do it for the sake of our country and the sake of our work.
The honourable member for Windsor-Tecumseh.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. After Stellantis was handed $15 billion for an EV battery plant in Windsor, they have now sent 3,000 jobs from Brampton to the United States. In my community, workers are now worried about their own jobs. How are they going to pay their mortgages? How are they going to feed their family? Canadians deserve transparency about these multi-billion-dollar contracts they paid so much for. Can the Liberals even confirm that their contract included a Canada-wide jobs guarantee for workers? Or will they continue to cover up for their incompetence?
The Honourable Minister of Industry.
Mr. Speaker, the decision by Stellantis is not only completely unacceptable, but we'll make sure to hold them to account. And that's why we'll make sure that we use all the full force of the law should the company doesn't bring the production back to Brampton. Meanwhile, the documents will be produced before committee. My colleagues will have access to it. And we'll make sure also, obviously, that all forms of support for Stellantis is being checked into, because obviously we need workers to be back in Brampton. Thank you.
Honourable member for Oshawa.
Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister failed to negotiate a win with President Trump, and Canadian auto jobs are on the line. Stellantis was handed $15 billion, and they've now announced they're moving 3,000 jobs to the United States. The current finance minister negotiated these deals and bragged about it, and now these auto jobs have left Canada for the U.S., and he refuses to be transparent. Liberals are hiding from the Canadian auto workers they sold out.
Failure.
Simple. Is there a Canada-wide jobs guarantee, yes or no?
Total failure.
The honourable minister responsible for Canada-U.S. trade.
Mr. Speaker, just because our colleague asserts with great indignation a series of conspiracy theories does not make them true. Mr. Speaker, what is true is our government is standing up for Canadian workers and Canadian businesses. The Prime Minister met with President Trump in Washington 2 weeks ago. We have engaged in a series of conversations and negotiations precisely to get a deal that's in the interest of all Canadian workers, including auto workers and other sectors of the economy in every region of the country. Mr. Speaker, that's the work that we're doing every day.
The honourable member for Dufferin-Caledon.
And the result of that meeting of the Prime Minister and President Trump was the export of 3,000 auto workers' jobs from Canada into Trump's America. Talk about failure. Meanwhile, this finance minister signed a $15 billion deal for jobs with Stellantis in Canada. It was supposed to include money to retool those plants. So what we keep asking, it's simple. If there's actually a job guarantee in this contract, and if there isn't, it's absolute negligence. Why don't they just tell us how many jobs will this contract guarantee for Canadian auto workers?
The honourable minister.
Mr. Speaker, our colleague knows very well, as my colleague, the Minister of Industry, has indicated, all of that information, of course, appropriately will be put before the parliamentary committee. Mr. Speaker, just because our colleagues on the other side assert some falsehood with great indignation doesn't mean that it's accurate. What is accurate, Mr. Speaker, is our government is standing up with the province of Ontario, the government of Premier Ford, to defend these workers, to defend all sectors of our economy. That's the work we do in Canada. That's the work we're doing in Washington. And, Mr. Speaker, we'll continue to do that work.
The honourable member for Dufferin-Caledon.
That is unbelievably cold comfort for the 3,000 auto workers and their families whose jobs have vanished to Donald Trump's America after the Prime Minister's meeting with Donald Trump. They have to think, how am I paying my mortgage? How am I going to put food on the table? And these are the kinds of answers these Liberals give. It's a very simple question. $15 billion went to Stellantis. And in that $15 billion, if you had a clue how to negotiate, you would have included a guarantee of Canadian jobs. We don't need to wait until these contracts are released. This member should know the answer. Is there a job guarantee for Canadian auto workers? Yes or no?
The Honourable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, we understand that our Conservative colleagues on the other side of the aisle don't like to work with Premier Ford and his government. On this side of the House, Mr. Speaker, we will work with all premiers, every political stripe, groups representing workers and businesses, precisely to defend those businesses from the unjustified tariffs imposed from the American administration. We'll do that work in Canada, Mr. Speaker, and good news, we're also doing that work in Washington, D.C.
The honourable member for Mégantic-L'Érable-Lotbinière. 10 years ago, this Liberal government was elected on a commitment, one specific one. It would run very small deficits and then balance the book during its first term. A promise that generated investment here in Canada. 10 years later, Mr. Speaker, what about this promise? Liberal debt has doubled, and Canada has the lowest growth in the G7 per capita. Will this Prime Minister at least keep his promise so that the next deficit will not exceed $42 billion? The Honourable Government House Leader. Obviously, the member across the way will have to wait for the budget to see the figures and the investment that will stem from this. But what we have said during our election campaign, and it remains our commitment, is that we will spend less to invest more. We'll build Canada strong and focus on major projects, on job creation in all regions of this country. And the member across the way is invited to read this document properly that we'll be presenting on November 4th. The honourable member for Mégantic-L'Érable-Lotbinière. I'll translate what he just said. He talks about generational investment that will cost future generations and for 10 years they've been promising their deficits will encourage investment in Canada, but the finance minister has done nothing but run up deficits with his spending policies. Since this Prime Minister has been elected, we're talking about tens of millions in investment that has fled Canada. Will this Prime Minister stop this crazy spending spree and at least keep his promise of keeping the deficit under $42 billion? The Honourable Government House Leader. What is striking, Mr. Speaker, is that this member has risen and talked about inflationary spending, but he never identifies what exactly is the inflationary spending. Is it the Breakfast Club? Is it the enhancements made for seniors to their benefits? Is it daycare? What is the inflationary spending that he speaks about?
Honourable member for Humber River Black Creek.
Mr. Speaker, I was thrilled to hear the Government of Canada's announcement on the Build Canada Homes initiative. This transformative program is a bold and critical step towards making housing more affordable for Canadians by accelerating the development of affordable homes all across the country. I had the honour of attending one of the many announcements in Toronto and saw firsthand the excitement and hope that this program is bringing to all of our communities. Could the Minister please give the House an update on the great work that's being done under this housing initiative?
Honourable Minister of Housing and Infrastructure.
Mr. Speaker, I thank my honourable colleague for the question, and we know Canadians urgently need more affordable housing, and Build Canada Homes is set to deliver that. We just announced last week the first Build Canada Homes project, Arbro Downsview, which is 550 new homes. Wow. This project is a perfect example of how we're making real progress using innovative construction materials, prioritizing Canadian materials to build faster and smarter, ensuring Canadians have access to affordable housing. And that's just the beginning, Mr. Speaker.
Honourable member for Haldimand Norfolk.
While Canadians are tightening their belts to make ends meet, this government keeps running up record deficits. This Prime Minister's reckless spending and record-breaking deficits delivered the worst per capita growth in the G7, and investments in workers are down by 10%. Now this Prime Minister is set to double the deficits, even beyond what Trudeau planned. Will this Prime Minister ensure Canadians that this deficit will not go over $42 billion in the next budget?
The Honourable Secretary of State for Financial Institutions.
Mr. Speaker, I know the party opposite may not like it, but let's look at some facts. Strongest credit rating in the world. AAA credit rating from S&P and Moody's. Lowest deficit in the G7. Lowest debt level in the G7. Lowest net debt to GDP in the G7. Biggest potential in the G7. Mr. Speaker, the leader opposite said he was going to bring it home. He didn't bring home the election. He didn't bring home his riding, and half his party want to send him home. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Haldimand, Norfolk.
Mr. Speaker, this kind of reckless spending is just breaking the backs of our children and grandchildren. For 10 years, this Liberal government promised that billions in deficit spending would lead to more growth and investments. Now the results are in. Canada has the worst per capita growth in all the G7, and billions in investments are fleeing this country every single month that this Prime Minister remains in office. So, when will this Prime Minister tell Canadians just how much more he plans to impoverish future generations?
The Honourable Secretary of State.
Mr. Speaker, while the Conservative leader continues on auditioning to be opposition leader, we are focused on building the strongest economy in the G7. Canadians on April 28th had a clear choice between two leadership styles, one with world economic experience and business experience. The others never worked a day outside of this House. Canadians made a choice. They went with our side to build the strongest, most resilient economy in the G7, and that is exactly what we're going to do. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Beauce. Mr. Speaker, for 10 years, the Liberals have been promising that their deficits would drive investment. The result? The lowest growth in the G7. A drop of more than 10% in investment and a declining economy. Every dollar spent by the PM comes directly out of Canadians' pockets. Mr. Speaker, the people of Beauce deserve better. And after doubling the debt, the Liberals are now preparing to double the deficit. Mr. Speaker, on November 4th, will the Prime Minister keep his promise to hold the deficit under $42 billion? Yes or no? The Honourable Minister. Mr. Speaker, the Leader of the Opposition had 45 minutes to think about whether he wants to apologize to the wonderful men and women who work to defend Canadians every day and that work at the RCMP. He attacked the integrity of our national police in a way that is totally inexcusable. Why does the Leader of the Opposition not take a moment? He says he supports the police. Why doesn't he not take a moment to apologize to the men and women who serve Canada through the RCMP rather than attacking their integrity?
The Honourable Member for New Westminster, Burnaby, Maillardville.
Mr. Speaker, every community has been affected by the crisis of toxic drugs and overdoses, and those in British Columbia are no exception. Earlier today, this government announced support for 40 projects in Western Canada that would give communities more tools to respond to critical emergencies and provide care for people struggling with addiction. Can the Minister of Health explain to the House how this government is working with communities to fight the drug crisis? The Honourable Minister of Health. Mr. Speaker, no community can tackle the drug crisis alone. We have a cross-government approach, and we are participating in solutions. The projects we are supporting today will save lives. One of these projects is the Dr. Peter Centre in Vancouver, which has a proven track record of helping people struggling with addiction. The center will offer services in this area, and fighting the drug crisis shouldn't be based on ideology, but on various action that is evidence-based and not ideology.
Mr. The Ring of Fire project in Northern Ontario would be a game changer for our region at a time we desperately need it. Yet the Prime Minister continues to delay by refusing to move forward with the project. That would create thousands of jobs, that has billions of dollars in investment. The project did not make the cut on the Liberals' project list, and the road won't even start until 2028. When will the Liberal get shovels in the ground and finally get the Ring of Fire project approved and underway?
The Honourable Minister of Jobs and Families.
Mr. Speaker, I'm surprised the member didn't ask about cap paper because, in fact, Ontario and Canada have worked together to give cap paper the breathing room, bring back its employees, and keep those employees hired while the mill looks for new business opportunities. Which is great news for the members in his riding, but all across Northern Ontario. Mr. Speaker, we're going to be there for industries that are hard hit, including pulp and paper, including mining. And Mr. Speaker, this is the great honour that we have to work on behalf of constituents.
The Honourable Member for Courtenay Alberni.
Mr. Speaker, in August, the Prime Minister promised $1.2 billion to support the forest sector in response to Trump's tariffs and softwood lumber duties, which we're still waiting for, Mr. Speaker. And just $50 million of that is earmarked for workers. That's not a plan. That's an insult. Almost 50,000 direct jobs in British Columbia alone are on the line. Will this Prime Minister step up with a serious plan to protect forestry workers across Canada in their hour of need?
The Honourable Minister of Natural Resources.
Mr. Speaker, we've been clear the U.S. tariffs on Canadian softwood lumber are absolutely unjustified, and we're working every day to solve this problem. We've committed $1.2 billion to the sector, and just last week we put the $700 million liquidity facility in place to help this sector. We will build Canada strong.
It being 3:06, the House will now proceed to the taking of the deferred recorded division on the motion of Ms. Lanceman relating to the business of supply. Call in the members.
All right. That brings us to the end. Sorry, I have to take these headphones off. There's a bit of a delay and it screws me up when I talk using them. Well, that was question period for today. I got to put a few clips of that together. So, as we can see, some rather disgusting responses from some very important questions. Disgusting responses are as I have put into the description for this video ahead of time. Which falls right into their no answers, right? They're always talking about, oh, look at a great lunch program. And then they talk about these benefits for seniors. As I covered in my lunch video, there are no benefits for seniors. They are all existing benefits that they keep rehashing. And this whole thing about calling out the leader of the opposition to apologize to the RCMP instead of responding to the answers, I mean, I know that this is the no answer period and you're not going to get any answers, but for the love of God, asking the leader of the opposition to apologize for something that he responded in a long form interview. And since then, if anybody's been online, people have just been digging up all the existing evidence that was ignored by the RCMP. And some of these responses that they gave in Parliament were just outright lies. Like every time they mentioned, oh, the Conservatives, and McKinnon is the worst for this. Oh, the Conservatives have never told us what they need to do or what their plan is. Yeah, they mention it all the time. And in fact, it's been in their platform since before the last election. Well, we're going to bring this episode to an end, and we are going to do the outro by showing the latest, well, I shouldn't say the latest, second latest video, because I put one out just before this live stream, on the actual budget coming out. And it is basically a presentation of Chef Francois, as we like to call him. And thanks a lot for coming out. If you stayed to the end, I super appreciate it. Please leave us some comments. I read them all. And when it comes to the chat, we only have the chat open right now on Rumble. Again, thank you all for coming. We will see you tomorrow. Same bat time, same bat place. And let's get this outro going where you can watch my episode. I think it runs about 9 minutes or so. Enjoy. Let's go. Okay, I'm not hearing any audio. What's going on? Oh, I know what's going on. Let's fix this. No. We have the outro. Well, this is no good. Why is this not playing?
How big is the deficit that the Prime Minister is running?
Mr. Speaker, looking forward with the Minister of Finance to releasing the budget on the 4th of November. That budget will contain the biggest investment in this country's future generation.
Financial watchdog in the country says there's only one bottom line, and we'll trust the PBO's word over 10 years of liberal deficits any day, Mr. Speaker. And with this plan to split the budget, it says the Prime Minister's forgotten that they're all linked to the same bank account, and there's really only one taxpayer. So if the deficit's set to double, let's just call a spade, will the Prime Minister basically just cook on the books and hoping Canadians don't notice?
We're going to spend less so we can invest more, Mr. Speaker.
Basically just cook on the books.
Just the news with this house, Mr. Speaker.
I know many things. I know many things. And one of the things I know, the member opposite, the leader of the opposition, just mentioned interest rates. One thing I know is that Canadian interest rates are much lower than American interest rates. They're lower because this country's fiscal situation is strong, because this government has a plan to grow this economy, and we will keep doing it.
The collapsing economy is bringing down interest rates, but the financial expert doesn't even know what his own deficit is. Another financial expert spoke yesterday. The parliamentary budget officer said the deficit will absolutely be higher because of additional spending. He said he doesn't know what the government's fiscal anchors are because they do not exist.
He's really just cooking the books.
He says the labor market sucks and wages are not going up. These are quotes. Is this why Liberal members on the committee who heard those truth bombs threatened that the Prime Minister would fire the parliamentary budget officer after 166 days?
I don't
recognize that, Mr. Speaker, I don't recognize that characterization. I just appointed the parliamentary budget officer. And this government does have fiscal anchors. This government has fiscal anchors. We are going to spend less so the country can invest more. We're going to balance the operational budget in 3 years. We're going to have a declining level of debt. And we're going to do all of that because we're building the strongest economy in the G7 for Canadians.
The Prime Minister made the appointment of the parliamentary budget officer temporary, so that he can hold a sword over his head and threaten him if he speaks the truth about the financial mess the Prime Minister has made. You know, to a government that doesn't know how to count, there's nothing more terrifying than a man armed with a calculator.
We're going to present a great budget in this House on the 4th of November, Mr. Speaker. This is going to be a generational investment in our future.
just cook the books.
We're going to build this country, Mr. Speaker. We're going to protect our communities. We're going to empower Canadians. We're going to build the strongest economy in the G7. We're going to build this country like never before. We're going to build Canada for the 21st century. Mr. Speaker, we are the true north, strong and free.
Basically just cook the books.
So I just finished a finance meeting, a meeting that we've been waiting for the entire summer. It was a 1-hour meeting, but to my surprise, the Liberal chair broke the rules and adjourned the meeting, ended the meeting suddenly, and walked away. We were trying to move a motion to bring the Minister of Finance into committee to speak about the precarious situation that we have here. We have no transparency. There's no budget. The parliamentary budget officer has said that this Liberal government has no fiscal anchor, has no guardrails. We have no idea what's going to be happening. All we know is that there are spending announcements. The deficit is supposed to be close to $100 billion. And yet, this Liberal government, the Liberal chair, has ended the meeting suddenly and walked away knowing that she was breaking the rules.
Basically just cook the books.
I have even more good news for the Conservatives, Mr. Speaker. All of them are representing a budget with generational investment, Mr. Speaker, that is going to make Canada the strongest economy in the G7. We will invest in our people. We're going to build this country. We're going to empower Canadians, Mr. Speaker. We're going to build Canada strong, and we're going to do it with all Canadians, Mr. Speaker.
Just cook the books.
Mr. Speaker, we will take no lesson from the Conservative. No lesson from the Conservative. On this side of the island of Canadians, we believe in this country, Mr. Speaker. Canada is the place where we attract talent. Canada is the place where we build ships, we build cars, we build planes. Canada is the place where we have critical minerals. Canada is the place where we have energy. Canada is the only country in the G7 with a free trade with all other G7 nations, Mr. Speaker. We're going to make Canada strong. We are the true north, strong and free, Mr. Speaker.
Just cook the books.
Hey everyone, a quick but important update. The parliamentary budget officer has confirmed it. The Liberal government is redefining what counts as capital investment, but it is stretching it so far that it no longer meets international standards. And I have seen this before in the financial sector, where numbers start getting massaged, when definitions shift, when those in charge try to make the books look better than they are. It's never a sign of confidence, it's a sign of panic. And I will say this plainly, when leadership resorts to those tactics, it is not just the financial performance that suffers, it is the integrity of governance itself. Let me read you the exact quote from the budget watchdog. This is a report from this morning. Based on our initial assessment, we find that the scope is overly expansive and exceeds international practices, such as those adopted by the United Kingdom. So this Liberal government is including things like corporate tax breaks, subsidies, housing incentives as capital formation. That is not investment. That's manipulation. It is how you make math look good while the reality keeps getting worse. But here's the real concern. By changing definitions, they can claim progress and their so-called fiscal anchors, because now they get to choose them, while dropping the most important one, which is the debt to GDP ratio. That's the anchor that every serious country uses to measure sustainability. So when you change the rules, instead of changing your reckless spending, you're not being transparent, you're actually hiding the truth from Canadians. And this should be important to you, because this is your money. You work very hard to earn it. The government taxes it, and now they are misrepresenting it and mismanaging it. And Canadians need and deserve honesty and transparency, not accounting tactics. We need fiscal discipline and integrity in government again.
Mr. Speaker, we will take no lesson from the
that grips us all. We have enthusiasm, energy, and absolute commitment for our cause. We have audiences that respond passionately. We can speak from our hearts.
C'est plein de bonnes nouvelles à venir. Il y en aura encore plus le 4 novembre. Mais Monsieur le Président, mon collègue doit savoir que ce gouvernement-là, la première mesure qu'on a mis de l'avant, Monsieur le Président, c'était une mesure pour 22 millions de Canadiens et Canadiennes. Quelque chose que mon collègue, j'imagine que dans son comté, il disait à tout le monde, grâce au gouvernement libéral, 22 millions de Canadiens et Canadiennes paient moins de taxes maintenant, Monsieur le Président. Et le 4 novembre prochain, nous aurons des investissements générationnels encore plus de bonnes
nouvelles. For the election, we're generating large amounts of money.
Monsieur le Président, à partir du 4 novembre, on va bâtir un pays fort, on va bâtir un pays prospère, on va bâtir un Canada fort ensemble, Monsieur le Président.
This will put an end to all our financial problems. I set the propaganda machinery in motion, and an hour later, the printing presses were chattering away. Our propaganda is considered to be exemplary. National press too. We have acquired so much expertise in this field during previous election campaigns that we can overcome our opponents. We frighten them, and they hardly dare utter a word. Now we will show what the apparatus can achieve if you know how to use it.